I'll probably split this up into 3 videos. This will be the first of those videos. If you don't want to wait for the videos, or if you prefer reading, I already have text versions of these tutorials in the description of the video. Without further ado, let's talk about movement. Just like every fighting game, you can hold left or right to walk a direction. Your character will always turn to face the opponent, even if you cross their sides. And in general, moving forward is a little bit faster than moving backwards. In this game, you have so many different movement options that just the basic walking is a little too slow, and most people don't really use it unless they're trying to get to a very specific spacing. To crouch, hold down, or any of the diagonals. Keep in mind that the entire time you'll be able to see my exact inputs right here, including buttons. And right there you can see a history of my inputs going right to left, right being the most recent. Crouching lets you avoid certain attacks that would otherwise hit you. However, do be careful, because in this game, when you get hit and you're crouching, you actually get stunned for longer. So there are some combos that only work on crouching opponents and not standing opponents. The first very important movement mechanic in this game is the dashes. So to dash, simply double tap left or right, and you'll dash in that direction. Back dashes go a set distance over a set period of time. The very, very beginning of the back dash is completely invulnerable. There's nothing that the opponent can do to hit you. But the ending of the back dash is completely vulnerable, and they can hit you. Some back dashes are significantly better than others, namely Potemkin's and Zatla's. You can also double tap forward to forward run, and if you continue to hold forward, you will run forever. Although there are a few characters in the game who have forward dashes that are similar to back dashes, in that they go a set distance over a set period of time, and you cannot hold forward to continue running. There's only like 3 of them though. Running is essentially a faster version of walking, in that at any point during the run you can do other things such as attack or jump. And when you do these things, the momentum of the run actually carries forward. So for example, if I just stand here, I get 3 kicks before I'm pushed away. However, if I run first, I get 5. This applies to jumps as well, which I will cover right now. To jump, you have to hold up, but you can also hold the diagonals, and you'll jump at an angle. In most games, jumping is pretty risky, but in this game you can actually block while in the air, so it's not that bad of an option. You get one of 2 air actions during your jump. You can jump again, or you can dash, but you can't do both. There are characters with additional air actions, but character specific. It is important to note that there is a particular tactic called the instant air dash, which is a very good way of getting in. It lets you mix up between running forward on the ground or dashing forward into the air. You can also instant air dash backwards. You can also super jump by tapping down and then jumping. This gives you much more height and more distance. However, if you super jump, you lose the ability to do another jump in the air. You can still air dash, but you cannot double jump whenever you perform a super jump. Also, normally when you jump over the opponent's head, you stay facing that direction. But if you super jump, your character automatically turns around in the air, and your attacks will go the other way. Speaking of attacking, this game has 5 buttons that are usually in that layout right there. The 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. In order, they are punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, and dust, or PKSHD. There's an optional 6th button that people tend to put here, which is the taunt button, but as you can see, I have it mapped to making the opponent walk at me. If you do not like that layout, then you can go into Options, Controller Settings, and then set the buttons to whatever you'd like. So if I want punch to be A, which I do, I press the A button, And then when I'm done, I go to the very bottom, exit. While I'm here, I should point out that you should go into game settings and make sure that you are on version AC+R. Because if you're on AC, you're playing on an outdated version of the game. +R has 2 new characters and various balance changes for every other character in the game. You'll know you're playing the +R version if you see Cliff and Justice on the character select screen. Back to attacking. Just like every game, there's a priority list of things that your character can do. So for example, your attacks will change while you're crouching. So you can press the punch button to punch, or you can hold down to crouch, and then press punch to get a crouching punch. Technically, I'm telling the game to do a standing punch, because to do a standing punch, you just press punch. But when I do a crouching punch, I'm still hitting the punch button. So I'm telling it to do both standing punch and crouching punch, but internally, the crouching punch comes before the standing punch. So it stops there, and it's like, okay, crouching punch. This is more important when you think about the different buttons. So what if I press 2 at once? It actually goes to the left. So if I press punch and heavy slash, I get the punch, because punch is left of heavy slash. This does allow for some pretty dumb option selects, but I'll get into those later. There are 3 main hit types in this game. You have the low, you have the mid, and you have the overhead. Likewise, you have 2 types of blocking. You have holding straight back, which is the same as walking backwards, and is the high block. And you have the diagonally down and back, which is the low block. Low attacks must be blocked with a low block. High attacks must be blocked with a high block. Note how the training dummy stands up to block this attack. Most moves in the game, however, are mids, and they can be blocked either low block or high block. In general, while on the ground, you should be blocking low, because characters usually have very, very fast, unreactable low attacks, whereas overhead attacks, or high attacks, tend to be very, very slow and seeable. You can block while in the air, however, you cannot block in the air if my attack comes while I'm on the ground. Wow. The dummy blocks this because he's cheating, but in a real match, you would not be able to block this. If I attack you with an attack from the ground and you're in the air, you will not be able to block it. As both players attack each other, you're bound to run into the counter. This occurs when both players try to attack each other, but one player hits the opponent before the other. Counter hits typically deal additional damage and have some extra properties. As you saw here, the regular hit of this move does not knock them over, but if I counter hit with it, it juggles them into the air. This game allows you to string together your attacks very, very free form, in the order of left to right. So punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, dust. Like that. You can mix in crouching and standing as well. Your character has unique moves to them, which you can see by pausing and going to the command list. These are your special moves in blue, followed by your force breaks in this dark yellow, followed by your overdrives in green, followed by your instant kill in red. I will go over all of these by the end of the next video, but for right now, let's only focus on the special moves. For example, that is a special move. Special moves are unique in that they can combo from basically any of your normals, and by normals I mean any normal attacks that you do by just pressing a button by itself. So for example, I can cancel that to that. This is the same as chaining your moves together like this, except you're going from a normal into a special. Additionally, when you block special moves, you take a little tiny bit of damage. This 5th button, the dust button, is a little bit different than other buttons. If you do it while crouching, this always hits low and always knocks the opponent down if it hits. There's one character who has a weird crouching dust, and that is Robokai. But if you do dust while standing, you get this big wind-up attack. And for every character, this is always a high attack, so you have to block it while standing. And if it hits, you can hold up to chase the opponent as they're launched into the air. To throw, stand next to your opponent and press left or right plus H. Depending on if you hold left or right, you will throw them either left or right. So I can throw them forward, or I can throw them backwards. Throws are completely unblockable. So while he can block most of my attacks, he cannot block my throw. If you are not in range to throw, or you just can't throw them, you will just get your regular H attack instead. If both players try to throw each other at the same time, a throw break occurs and they both get pushed apart. Throw breaks are extremely rare in this game because there is a 2-frame window to throw tech. The obvious weakness to throws is their short range. You cannot throw an opponent who is in the air. However, if you are in the air and you press forward or backward plus H, you can get an air throw, which only hits airborne opponents and not grounded ones. You also cannot throw an opponent if they are in the middle of their blocking animation. So if he blocks, I can't immediately throw him because that would be cheating because he's blocking and he can't move. Or if they're being hit, can't throw him. Note that throws have no startup to them at all. This makes them especially effective as you're getting off the ground because they will beat your opponent's attempt to hit you. In addition, if I do knock you down, I'm not allowed to throw you for a little bit of time after you get off the ground, but you can definitely throw me. Also, the sun is very bright. I'm not an angel, I promise. If you want to beat their wake-up throw, you have to either stay out of range of the throw, or do something that can't be thrown. When you get hit, your character enters this reeling animation, and during this animation they can do absolutely nothing. You can tell them to do whatever you want on your controller, they will not listen to you. Which means that I can hit you several times in a row, and there's nothing that you can do about it. This is called a combo. If you'd like to know more about hit stun and combos and block stun and frame traps and punishes, be sure to check out my frame data guide, which I will also link in the description below. But that is universal to every fighting game, so I'm not going to really cover it right now. What is unique to Guilty Gear is what happens when you're hit out of the air. When you are hit out of the air, you also enter hit stun, which is different from most games. So when I hit you, there's a period of time where you cannot get out of the combo. So I can do things like this, and you can tech out. And the way you tech out is by pressing any of the 5 buttons. In addition, you can tech left or right or neutral. And if you tech neutral, your character will go upwards. So in training mode, you want to make sure you go over to your enemy tab and turn on recovery to either neutral, front, or back. You probably don't want it on neutral for reasons I'll get into later. I always keep mine on back. If you want them to delay their recovery, you can also set it to delay. Keep in mind that you have to press the button to tech out of a combo. You cannot simply hold a button down to tech a combo. If you set the dummy to not recover, then some of your combos will look like this. And if you notice, the word beat has turned black. This is called black beat, and it means your combo was not real. They could have teched out of it. So if you do see a lot of black beats, make sure you turn recovery onto front or back. Just to illustrate my point about neutral, there's an example of a combo that The dummy is set to neutral tech as fast as possible, but they didn't because neutral checking is delayed. So again, make sure you have the dummy to front or back. When you air tech, you are completely invulnerable to strikes, like that. However, you are not invulnerable to air throws, so watch out for that. Most of the time, people aren't going to look to throw your techs, but it is possible, so be sure to watch out for it when it does happen. If your character touches the ground during a juggle, either because you didn't tech or couldn't tech, then you enter a knockdown, where your character lies on the ground, and then they get up at a very specific timing. And there's nothing that you can do to change this wake-up timing, and this fact alone makes wake-up game really, really, really strong. Because if I knock you down, I know exactly when and where you're going to be when you wake up. Really, the only saving grace here is wake-up throws, as I mentioned earlier, are very powerful. And don't forget about backdashes. If you time it right, the backdash will become invulnerable, then they won't be able to hit you. When you knock the opponent down, you can still hit them, but it is usually not advisable because that gives them the chance to tech away immediately. So technically you are doing extra damage by hitting them off the ground, but because you're sacrificing that knockdown state, you don't get to mix them up. So most of the time, unless they're like 1 pixel away from dying, you will see top level players sacrifice a little bit of damage in order to maintain that knockdown. And that's it for the first video. Next video, I'll be covering all of the meters on the screen and the rest of the basic mechanics of the game. Then in the third video, I'll be going over some more advanced strategies, advanced mechanics, and even some glitches. So until then, I hope you learned something from this video. I really wish the sun would go away, but thanks for watching. I'll see you then.